Up, 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 up. Here we go.
Hello everyone! My dad took advantage of some time off to hop in the Jeep and head out to 4 Jeep Badge of Honor trails, Turkey Bay OHV Park in Kentucky and Hot Springs Off-Road Park in Hot Springs, Arkansas. 4 badges, 2,100 miles, 4 days. He's ambitious. To introduce Turkey Bay OHV Park in Kentucky, it's one of the most well-organized, well-groomed, and well-marked parks we've ever been to. They have a free updated events map available on their webpage, and it was perfect to follow. Out of the nearly 100 miles of trails in the park, there are 3 trail designations: primary, which is easier, secondary, which is intermediate, and tertiary, which is harder. All of the trails are well marked on the trees, and we didn't have a single problem between the markers and the events map. Well, other than the snow and ice that fell the day before and made wheeling a little interesting.
Thanks, Nat. I arrived about the time the park was opening. As you can see here, I was coming to the first guard shack, but due to that weather that came in, all this snow, the visitor center where I needed to buy my day pass was opening late. So, what better chance than to grab second breakfast? We'll circle around here and come back to starting in just a minute.
Coming up here to segment F, or intersection F. There is maybe an inch of snow on the ground. Apparently last year it was 60 degrees and they had tornadoes down here.
As Nat had mentioned before, Turkey Bay OHV Park has 3 main classifications of trails. Primary, which are main or easier trails, are marked yellow. Secondary, which are intermediate or connector trails, are marked in orange. And tertiary, the more difficult trails, are marked in blue. You'll see all the badges there on the trees. As you see, there's a little dot that was right there. The Badge of Honor trail is the full network of the primary main trails, so I started there getting a feeling for the park. The primary trails have a few slightly off-camber sections or a couple small water crossings or mud pits, but they're mostly pretty tame. I did the south and east loops to start, but then I started to try out a few of the secondary trails. Coming up here in a second, you'll see the first trail I tried.
202, back to the main trail.
Apart from the challenges that the snow and ice made, the secondary trails weren't too much trouble. They're mainly connector trails between the primary trails, but a few spots, like here, you just saw it paralleled the main trail before it hooks you back in. There's the primary trail there to the right. After finishing off a secondary trail, it dumped me out just short of this slight climb up an orange-red hill. The only hill of this color I remember seeing. Like back in Minnesota, I used to see this color up north, but I hadn't seen this in this park yet. But here at the top, I had stopped, ate a quick lunch, and you can see off to the right there, you can get some pretty cool views of the park.
Deer. 2 deer. Hey guys.
Being one of the only few rigs in the park today, wildlife was everywhere. Birds, little scurrying things, but mostly deer. There was a family of 4 deer that I think I kept running into a few times that day. This was also one of the few tertiary trails or blue trails that I attempted. The snow, as you see me walking up the hill here, hid the rocks and boulders very nicely. They were mixed in, under, and amongst piles of leaves. Without that snow and ice being there, it would have been far easier to navigate. This one, I'm kicking over that pile of leaves, but there was a rock right next to it I would have hit a diff on, so I chose to turn around, and then I fell into a hole.
Found ourselves in a mud hole.
One of the biggest scourges in the park this day were puddles of water and mud that had 2 inches of ice on top of them. There was a UTV or two scooting around, but they weren't heavy enough to break through it, but I sure was. A few times I had to take it really slow to make sure I wasn't going to have to winch out of a deep icy hole again. Now, there's my tree strap exactly. So, scooting around, I had mentioned earlier, there's the great signage on the trees. Kind of like this one as we go through this path. Between the updated Avenza map that I had running on my phone and the great signage on the trees, it was really hard to get lost. Even here, where no one had been in here before, you could still pretty much tell where the trail was going. And you can always turn around if something gets too hairy, right? There was a couple times I definitely did that. I made the decision not to risk too much today wheeling alone and having it being so cold, icy, and snowy here on the trails. So coming up here in a second, here's a few more shots of the water holes. There on the left, you see my tire navigating through one of them. Just taking it slow. Most of them are no big deal, just a couple inches, no big deal. But there's a few, like one coming up here in a second, that was almost 2 feet deep. Here it is. This one was almost 2 feet deep. Now, that water, not a big deal. Ice chunks getting hung up under the Jeep, in the wheels, not getting to get a wheel up on top of it, that's the problem. So, I just had to be really careful here, and in this case, climb up over on the side. So up in the northeast side of the park, there was a secondary trail that I love so much. I took it a couple times. Good tight squeezes, dug down in the earth like this one. But in the section in the middle here, you'll see it in a minute, I was about 30 or 35 degrees off camber. Bit of a pucker factor, but so fun. Here it goes right here. As I dip in, watch around the corner here, you'll see me dip even further. Thinking to myself, ooh, doggy, this is a big lean. And then all of a sudden, just a little bit more. Oh, that was pretty fun. Stuff sliding down my seats in the back. And then you even out pretty quick. You can see on the side cam up there, there was a couple times that side of the car was lifting a little bit. You could see the wheel spin a couple extra times. But eventually, the park started getting pretty sloppy. The temperature was getting about 33, 34. So I started to head out of the park. You could hear that water sloshing into your tires pretty hardcore. And then there's a couple spots like this where they had engineered in some water crossings with a little bit of climb out brick on the other side. Even those were starting to run with all that runoff happening. So time to go. So I took the opportunity on the way out the park to grab a couple of cool pictures at the rock pile and at the silo out back. The trees were gorgeous, and then headed to the station where I could have level ground to rehook my sway bars and get aired up to be ready to go. So I had originally planned this trip just to be Turkey Bay, but with the snow it left me wanting to come back and wanting a little more on this trip. A little Google search and boom, Hot Springs Off-Road Park in Arkansas. Quick call to my wife to extend one more day, and I'm on the road at 4 a.m.
It's the world's largest Bass Pro Shops. And the world's tallest freestanding elevator.
At the beginning of this video, Natalie called me ambitious. Yeah, I'll take that. Hot Spring opened around 9 a.m. I wanted to get there in time for a good solid day of wheeling. It's not as big as Turkey Bay, but it's got 3 badges to earn, and there's a whole bunch of trails there anyway. It's deep back in a wooded area. If you go, yes, just keep following Google, deeper and deeper and deeper back into the woods. You eventually get to the park here. You'll come in, hang a right, and there's a couple lanes where the day pass wheelers can park and then go in and get your pass. So I just followed that guy. I do love exploring on my own, but sometimes opportunity presents itself to find a group of like-minded people and a guide that is just forming a group to take out to do exactly what you want to do. It was a little bit of a hilarious situation getting linked up with Melvin, the guide in his group. He thought I was a second guy. I kept saying, no, I'm a rando that just showed up. We went back and forth until it clicked for both of us. Let me tell you, though, if you go to Hot Springs, find Melvin and get a tour with him. He is awesome. Melvin started us out on Snake, a 3 out of 5 diamond, winding, get it, snake, haha, trail with one little climb in the middle. We had a stock Rubicon in our group, and they didn't have too much of a problem at all. Dirt, mud water puddles, and some good rocky crawling filled out the rest of this trail. There is an early exit from Snake that puts you right on the next trail, which is Rubicon Ridge. The early exit of Snake had us go up a small hill, but then we came to this lookout here, which is just awesome. Here, take a peek.
God, that view is gorgeous.
The other side of that view drops you right into Rubicon Ridge. It's easy to get stuck just sitting in park looking at that view in front of you, but quickly the radio chirps and you head to the left. A quick little staging road here with a little bit of a drop off to the right. And then a hard right turn up where that the second white Jeep is up there. It gets you into what Melvin calls the waterfalls. It's a series of 20 to 25 degree downward rocky descents with a few drops and tricky tire placement situations. This one having it in first gear for a manual or first select gear in an automatic, and then just stand on that brake as you go down. That's how you get down this one. Here, Melvin is spotting me coming down a particularly tricky tire placement situation.
Now, there you go. Stay with it. All right. Get back in the trail. I'm going to point out. Clear up right here, because I got to get this wheel on this drop down. Little drop.
Rest of the trail looks just like this. Some little ascents, some descents, mostly on dirt and leaves and a couple rocks here and there, but that's pretty much it. And then you pop out. Then we said goodbye to our friend Melvin. One of the Jeeps from the morning, Dave and Ruth Reed, stuck with me and we headed off to do Fun Run. It was a bit of a challenge finding it behind the kids area, but we eventually did. It's by far the shortest of the 3 badge trails, but they say it can take anywhere from 15 to 60 minutes depending on how you take the 3 climbing challenges within. We took our time, had some fun, tried out Dave's winch for the first time, and clocked in about 40 minutes.
All right, I'll let you get out a little ahead of me.
We rolled through this rocky area, which was actually pretty fun to get to the first challenge here, which at first blush didn't seem too bad until you saw there was ice still all over it. And it was a little interesting to climb. Took me a couple times to find the right line, but eventually Dave and I found our way up. The second obstacle here was a little more challenging. There's about 3 or 4 different steps in this one. As you can see, we're staring at the first one, and you can definitely get up and get out, and I highly advise checking your lines before you just start banging through this one, unless you got a super built-up rig. Here I'm walking up trying to figure out the right way to take the first step. Eventually, found the line, worked my way back and forth, got up that first step, the second step here, and then crawled through this little bit of a rock field, which throws you back and forth a little. Then you get to the section past the tree here, which is the last climb out. Once you get past the first and second little larger rock steps, beyond that it's pretty quick. Just make sure you don't hit the tree. I didn't hit the tree, just for for sake of everything, but stopped short and came back. But then you kind of crawl out the last little bit here. Dave here had a 2-door, so he took a slightly different line than I did. But he got started up this first step, made it up pretty well actually, it was working his way around, but then right at the end here, there was a rock that got stuck right underneath his driver's door that we had to end up grabbing his winch out and pulling him over just because his tire was in a funky spot. But then we were able to climb up the rest of the hill. Now I did say there were 3 obstacles on Fun Run. I'm not going to show you the last one. You get to go find that one out yourself. It's doable though. The rest of the time, we figured we're going to go up and try to catch the sunset up on top of the ridge. So we headed through Brandon's Run, and there was a lake loop and a couple other really easier trails to kind of just calm things down before we drove through the camp, 5 miles an hour only. Just to make sure the dust stays down, and we headed up here on Core Road number 2 to head toward the top of the ridge for the sunset. Now, I'm always a proponent of only using 4-wheel drive when you do actually need it, so you don't wear stuff out prematurely. Here on the right-hand side there, I had to turn it back on, but we finally got up to the top just in time to catch what would be, in my words, one of the most awesome sunsets that I have ever seen. It was perfect from the scenery, the angle of the sun, the temperature. It was like 70 down there, and the 3 of us just hung out, and I tried to fly my drone. It was pretty windy, so there's not a lot of really good video, but I got some decent shots. Then we did something pretty cool. Night run. Ba-dink! I love night runs. Safely, of course, but there's just the park takes on a whole different attitude when you're lighting it up with the lights from your rig. So we didn't do anything crazy. Park allows you to, as long as you're not doing it alone. You can go out and run any of the trails, but we just took the core roads back down to tie it up for the night. I had been up since 3:34 in the morning. My partners in crime were also in a similar place, so we were about wrapped. So here we are going down the hill. Seemed to take a lot less time than going up, but here we go. Now, we had noticed there was trailers, there were campers, there were tents all being set up, so you can go to this park and camp for the weekend. These guys here, they had a grill. Oh man, those hot dogs smelled so good. But as we passed by and we waved, it would be a really interesting experience to come back here and camp for a weekend. On site, they have a number of very high capacity Arab hoses. My 35s, I was doing about 15 seconds a tire to get back up to pressure, down from about 15 pounds of pressure. So awesome Arab set. And that was really about it. We called it a day. 4 days, 6 states, 2,100 miles, 2 parks, 4 badges. Pretty darn fun. I highly, highly recommend both the Turkey Bay OHV Park and the Hot Springs Off-Road Park if you want to get out there and get these badges and have an awesome experience. Maybe with a little less snow and ice down there at Turkey Bay. But thanks again for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Just starting to grow my views and my subscribers. So everyone that clicks that button, thank you so much. Even if you were just here to check this out and get ideas for your own adventure, thanks for watching. And come back and watch some more as you have time. So thank you so much. Have a great night.